ever feel overwhelmed by stress? Do you feel like sometimes the things that stress you out are affecting your life more than they should? Have you ever gotten to the point where you thought about seeking out help from a therapist but didn't feel like that was absolutely necessary? If you answered yes to any one of these questions, you've come to the right venue. As a psychotherapist, I've always had the desire to make the world a better place. That's why I went to school to become a social worker. But over the years, I've noticed an inherent problem in our current mental health model. Insurance companies only recognize and reimburse for therapy services when the need for professional help is demonstrated by significant impairment to normal functioning. The process often looks like this. You may be going along with your life, feeling as though things are status quo. Not great, not terrible. You're making it work. Your head's just above water. You're likely doing what you need to do, and any extra energy or resource you have goes toward whatever comes up or is necessary to tend to at that time. But then something happens. An unexpected diagnosis, a death in the family, a serious shift at work. Some new stressor is added on to your already stressful life, and your world turns upside down. You have to adjust to this new situation. Nothing is the same. Your emotions are running high. You see everything with a different lens. This downward spiral often continues and you no longer function like you used to. Nothing seems to be going your way. The stress of this event is taking a toll in all areas of your life. Until something else happens that helps you realize you've hit rock bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. And you feel like you have no choice but to seek professional help. This is when most people choose to begin the therapeutic process and end up getting control of their life by living more intentionally. The therapist helps you clarify what it is you need, get you motivated, create a specific strategy, and help you take steps to prepare for this new journey. All the while, life goes on around you, forever changing. You're simply learning how to deal with it. This is one of the cycles I see in therapy all the time. Managing stress accumulation, whatever its origin, is what I end up doing for most of my work. I'm constantly working with clients who have significant life stressors, some internal and some external, that just seem to take over their life. Eventually, they can't ignore it anymore, so they finally come to me for help. This is where I see that our current model is broken. Why do we have to wait until our lives are falling apart to get help? Why can't we work to make things better before we're swept into this downward spiral? What I see is the potential for a completely different scenario. Imagine again, you're bobbing along with your head above water in the life is status quo state. Then a life stressor comes along that begins to push you under. Instead of your life turning upside down, what if you were able to see things differently? Although the situation hasn't changed, you're able to actively respond in a way that's productive. You're not destroyed by your circumstances. You remain in control of what you can because you already have the skills necessary to handle difficult situations. So instead of getting caught up in the downward spiral, you automatically shift to the phase of living with better intentions. It may require some professional assistance at first, but ultimately, when you master the process, you know how to be your own guide and take over the wheel. No loss of control, no life falling apart, no rock bottom. Just responsive action with immediate results. Allowing you to see through the overwhelming issue with better clarity and a more empowering perspective. Sounds pretty ideal, right? And yet our system is not designed to take the preventative measures this process requires. Instead, the stressful problem and symptoms are the focus. I say this sets us up to allow for too much unnecessary suffering. Now here's another look at what some people do, not regarding mental health or stress management, but goal setting and achievement. Imagine again that you're bobbing along in your life is the status quo state. And instead of a life-altering event motivating you into action, you're one of the lucky few who decide that self-help is the right path for you, and that you're finally going to achieve that goal you've had your sights on. Again, you begin to live a life with better intentions and become your own guide. You may even make legitimate progress. You have the strategy. You're putting in the effort. You're accomplishing new milestones. And then reality sets in, and the pressure becomes too much. It's not for your lack of trying, that's for sure. You see, your progress is real. You're achieving much more than you were before, but life has this funny way of constantly changing. Maybe an unforeseen circumstance or some other shift made it so that your progress still wasn't enough to keep from being affected by the increased stress load in your life. You think to yourself how great that ideal life would be, but it's just out of reach. Self-doubt sinks in. Negative reasoning emerges. Excuses become easier than effort. You might even begin to think, well, maybe it's because I'm actually a fish and I have no business trying to fly. I'm just not cut out for this kind of life. And the cycle continues. Does any of this seem familiar? Again, I see it all the time, but this last scenario I don't see in therapy because so often the goal in therapy is not achieving your full potential. It's getting back to the place where things felt as though they were normal. Our current mental health model has little to do with life goal fulfillment. This cycle of failed attempts at goal seeking I see in my friends, my family, and even myself. Well, at least my old self. I hear complaints, even from acquaintances, about the serious stress in their lives, and then I see how it gets in the way of their ambitions, hopes, and dreams. I'm frankly tired of so many hardworking, intelligent individuals giving up on realizing their full potential, simply because they don't have the energy, they have too much to deal with, or they've just stopped believing in themselves. But what if I told you there was actually a way, a much easier way, to achieve your goals? One that you didn't have to begin alone. One that gave you a roadmap of how to achieve your full potential. It might start with living a life more intentionally, but that's where the detour begins. Utilizing a completely different model based on neuroscience and how your brain responds to stress, we're actually able to tap into things that are already going on behind the scenes. First, you'll get to learn about what stress looks like in your brain. Then you'll see how this affects executive functioning, willpower, and dysregulate your immune system. But then you'll also get to find out how to use some aspects of your brain's natural process to your own advantage. This is true. You'll get to utilize brain-based habit formation techniques that give you a serious leg up. You'll learn how brains naturally form habits, what role the reward center plays, and how to boost its function, how stress interacts with this process, and what to do in order to combat these issues. You see, neuroscience isn't just something that sounds neat and looks cool. We now actually have the ability to utilize cutting-edge strategies based on what they're learning in labs. So instead of just hoping to keep your head above water, or trying to set and achieve goals based on trial and error, Mind over Gray Matter gives you the proper tools you need, and a navigation system of what to do with them. Instead of fighting yourself and your own stress, this then allows for a much more relaxing process filled with success and reward. Once you've mastered your own brain, your stress, and your goal achievement process, you'll then start to notice that you've begun to move to higher ground. where those turbulent situations no longer affect you. You are in control. And at this point, the sky is the limit. This is made possible because you were able to get in touch with what was going on the whole time, behind the scenes, in your brain. So instead of being ruled by this process, you now rule over it. When you're no longer struggling to keep your head above water and old limitations are non-existent, just imagine what you could do. So please, allow me to make your world a better place and ultimately help you achieve life goals you never thought possible.